Welcome to our greatest American art form.
The mixtape.
Now, for all of you kids who don't know,
Traditionally, a mixtape is a homemade compilation of media from multiple sources, recorded into a medium like a CD, a VHS, or cassette tape.
what we are presenting to you here is something we call Mixtape Therapy,
A collection of authentic conversations,
often wacky conversations,
inspired by what inspires us.
except instead of a cassette tape, we are bringing you a podcast
So just as you might share a mixtape, we share these conversations with you.
in the hopes that they spark a similar connection to the good old mixtape. Now, join us
for a little
for some
mixtape
Mixtape Therapy.
Welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about an episode of Esther Calling, the beautiful podcast by Esther Perel, the esteemed sex and relationship therapist. And the name of this episode is Why Can't I Find Someone? Is It Me? Scottie brought this to the table. I still don't know what Scottie thinks. He has thoughts, and I'm intrigued. But Scottie, first, just tell us about that episode.
Okay, so there's a handful of podcasts I listen to. Esther Perel is definitely one of those. And on this particular episode, let me say this. Esther Perel, for me, always has good answers, right? She always has the answers to everything. And so when this lady came with this problem, I was really interested in what she had to say because I already had my own feelings and thoughts on it, right?
Yeah.
And the fact in the episode that she was kind of miffed, I was kind of like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Because for me, I had feelings about it and I couldn't understand either A, she didn't want to get into it. It was too deep or whatever. Or B, she just really didn't have like kind of a feeling on it. And that seemed crazy to me. So I reached out to.
Oh, sorry. I just want to clarify.
No,
Esther didn't have a strong opinion, which is weird for her because normally she does, and she doesn't hold back. Like if she has something really tough to say, she's gonna say it.
And not only that, she usually has like some insight that I never thought of before, or an angle, and I'm always curious and interested. And so to have her kind of fall flat on this episode was just really, I was kind of miffed by it. I was just like, wow. And so that's why I brought it to Hannah, and that's why we're here, right? So let me start by saying that possibly the opinions that I'm fixing to give are very biased by cultural society of specifically America, okay? Because everything I'm gonna say is, it might sound like nonsense. Like, you know, like this is nonsense, but like you have to remember the culture of America and you can't forget, like there's the logic of it and then there's the things that we do like as Americans that are just like nuts. Like that just like, you know, like, oh, I don't, like, you know, you got to contact me 3 times before I contact you back or something like that. You know, the dumb rules that we would put on dating and stuff, right?
Like the dating games.
The dating games, right? So I'm just going to let me give my feelings and thoughts, and I'm going to let Hannah respond because I think that's probably the best way to do it.
First, describe the scenario. Like describe what the woman is calling.
So the scenario is that the woman is I think she's in her mid 30s. She's gone on a lot of dates. She's had a lot of dates with men. She's had some relationships, but for the most part, it sounds like she gets ghosted. Like, you know, they kind of just disappear and she doesn't have a lot of answers to why she's not successful in relationships. Okay. And as soon as she started talking, I knew that I didn't want to be in a relationship with her.
Damn. Okay.
Now,
I'm so intrigued.
There's nothing wrong with anything she said or what she did or what she thinks or how she is. There is nothing wrong with any of this stuff, okay? But this lady comes off to me as a man. She came off very intense. It's like I hike. I do this and I do that and I'm doing this. I'm looking for a partner who can do this with me and do that with me. And like I have all these goals and dreams and and like that is all fucking fantastic. But what if I just wanted to sit with my partner and I just wanted to relax and be with them and laugh and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like that intensity that she talks about, right? That intensity she brings to the relationship, what she's bringing to the relationship, you know, one, that's not a typical female role in the United States society of how we place women and do shitty things like that. Like, I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm just saying that like her being strong is not something that men really react to well to start off with. They should. Men should want a strong woman. They should want someone with opinions. They shouldn't want someone that is passive or whatever. But like, it's American men are wussies like that. Like, you know, people are wussies like that, right? And so she brings a level of intensity to the whole thing. And I could feel that from a jump. And she talks about how she gets ghosted by these guys. And she can't understand why she gets ghosted. And my gut said, now she didn't say this, but my gut said, I bet she's just blowing these people up with messages. It's intense, intense, intense. Are we going hiking? Is this going on? You know, it's always, give me the answers, like when we are problem solvers. And like that level of intensity for me from a partner, you could say male or female, from another, is intense.
Yeah.
And there has to be a balance of that and a softness of that. And I felt that intensity through all of her things, and nothing that she was saying was bad. That's what's so crazy about it.
Yeah.
She wasn't saying, like, she was saying everything, let me say, she was saying everything I want my daughter to be. Strong and independent, her own job, take care of herself, like she's educated, she loves to hike, she's in shape, she's doing, I would love my daughter to be all those things, right? But there's also the dating game, and there's the side of that, like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah, like a woman, if she's into men, a lot of times wants to feel like she's protected by her man. Now, he might not be a boxer or a bodybuilder, or he might just be fat, right? But she feels protected because he's big, you know? And there's a softness, there's energy, and there's a softness to a woman as a male that I want to feel, right? You know what I mean? I don't want to feel like I'm butting up against another man sometimes. Just like I think a woman, if you're, this might be controversial. This is where you jump in, Hannah. If a man was crying like every fucking day, like he came to you, your boyfriend came to you and was like just upset and emotionally, you'd be like, what the fuck? But you would say that whether it was a girl or a boy. But I think the intensity level of it being a male might go up if you're dating them and if you're in a monogamous male-female relationship, right? Like that you would want them to kind of be strong at moments and fix shit and do all this other stuff, you know what I mean? And if they were like constantly writing poetry or like say that they didn't want to mow the yard, but they were perfectly cool baking, like all that stuff is fine. But in the United States, in our world, in our dating scope, all those things have impact, unfortunately. So how do you navigate those and turn them on and off? And like episodes we talked about before, being multiple people and still being able to be a strong, independent woman that likes to go hiking and do all the stuff very intensely and feel like I can sit on the couch next to you and not have to talk about, like, you know, what we're going to eat tomorrow, or like, how many miles we're going to hike, or what, you know, like there was an intensity level to her from the very beginning that I just didn't want. But I wouldn't want that from anyone, by the way. And that's all I really have to say, that I think she is unaware of how intense she is, like how almost intimidating she is as a person. And then unfortunately you tack female on top of it. And I think for most males, a very assertive, confident female is super intimidating. But I mean, I think that would be intimidating to a lot of people, male or even females would get intimidated by a super intense female, you know, that was really secure, you know what I mean? Anyways, okay. So what do you think, Hannah?
Oh man, I think so many things, right? I think so. First of all, let's go back to what I felt when I was listening to it.
Mhm.
Because I'm a woman, right? And I'm mostly hetero. And so listening to her, I really did have a lot of my female friends in mind who are single and trying to date and um, dealing with things like getting ghosted and all this kind of stuff. And so I did not have that. I mean, I was also searching for, I'm like, she's clearly doing something that is not working. And that could be the way that she's showing up, like you're saying, like she's showing up with maybe like a expectant, intense energy, putting a lot of pressure onto another person. Um, the other thing, which I want to get into a little bit later, is I wonder what types of men she is attracted to. I think that's actually the part that I find a little bit more juicy. Um, but I did have just, yeah, my female friends in mind who are, you know, of course, I think they hang the moon, but they're awesome. They're smart, beautiful, like all the things. And dating, especially online nowadays, seems just fucking gnarly. Like it just seems pretty bad. And this is not a new topic, but I think it bears mentioning, which is that if you are on dating apps for any length of time, I don't care what kind of person you are, because I was on dating apps. I like to think I'm like, oh, I'm a nice person. I give people their due. I respect individuals. But when you are on a dating app, it changes your brain to start feeling like you are seeing people as items in a catalog. Like it is set up that way. I don't know, Scottie, I don't know if you've ever been on a dating
So
app.
you know what's so funny is I have so little because I've been in relationships, right?
Yeah,
Like, you know, I was when
yeah,
they got big, I was in a relationship and then I got
yeah.
out of that relationship and I did it for like a hot minute and it sucked so bad that I just
Thank
like
you. Okay.
stopped. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, can we just talk about dating apps for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I
Yeah,
think
I'm
I
down for
think
it.
it's so important, right? Because so like, and this is a whole other conversation for a whole other time, but the way that technology changes our brain's relationship to things is profound. Like we really can't overstate that. I mean, there's a whole book I'm reading right now, The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt. We've actually already talked about him, but he's talking about how like growing up on the internet has fundamentally changed the brains of the younger generations.
I'm
Like it's
reading that by the way.
and
I
it's
forgot to.
great. It's like
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
It makes me so mad.
yeah. Anyways, go ahead,
Anyway,
go.
so I can say from my personal experience as someone who's been on a dating app, been on dating apps before, um, I start to see people as like so disposable. Because there's like all these dudes, right? Or girls, or both. And you're literally like, yeah, nah, nah, right? And you really just don't get like our brains are not capable of grasping the humanity and the individuality of a person in a crowd of faces on a screen that you're just like swiping through. And so I really do feel like a dating app cheapens the um the dating experience. Like I really think it adds this inhumane element to it. And to like, have I ever, I'm sure I've ghosted someone before, but like the older, I do think that ghosting's like pretty inexcusable if you've been on, I would say, one face-to-face date with someone. Ghosting someone who you've been texting on an app, I don't think that's like, it sucks kind of, but like that happens all the time, especially if you're trying to talk to a bunch of people. And I think it's like the nature of the app. But this woman in this story who's like in her mid 30s and is getting ghosted by men, presumably also in their mid 30s. I mean, I think that's pretty bad. And I'm sure women do it as well. I don't think it's like a man thing, but not communicating that you are done with the relationship, even for something as simple as like, hey, I don't know that like I don't see long-term potential here. It was so nice to meet you. Wishing you all the best. Like at least something like that. I think that's like pretty deplorable. So that was when I was listening to this, I was like, I'm sure this woman, like something is happening, but like who are these people that she keeps giving her time to that don't have the integrity to do something like pretty simple, like send a quick message or have a quick phone call after these were after a few dates too, like after a few dates, giving her the dignity of like explaining that, you know, they weren't interested. So to me, that was more like a couple thoughts. One is like, damn, dating is so hard. The apps are fucked up. And then I got into my deeper like therapist hat, and I'm like, what kinds of guys is she attracted to? And it could very well be that, like many women, she's attracted to like douchebags, right? Like she is maybe attracted to men that are charming and have this like charismatic persona, but like don't have a lot of integrity, see women and or people as disposable. Maybe she's attracted to men who are like less mature and do ratchet things like ghost people after they've been on a few dates. You know, I'm like, okay, so maybe she's got like that. I thought Esther missed a lot of opportunities to question further.
Well, but it's, it's only an hour, so maybe like that's what I was saying.
Totally.
Like, she didn't really have any thoughts, and I was like, this is crazy that she didn't have any thoughts. So maybe she just couldn't get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because can I just jump in real quick to your
Of
point?
course.
When I think of a very high performing, smart, intelligent, driven woman, right? She's probably going to go for in my mind, there's really two kinds of guys. There's a guy that's like, like he's smart and driven and
Yeah.
almost she's like, he's more than me. And like, oh, I want more because he's more and we're going to be more together, right? Or that's intimidating.
Uh-huh.
So she dates dudes that are like just not motivated. They don't have any, maybe they tell her they like to go hiking, but they really don't like to go hiking, like shit like that, right? And so then she's just severely, and then, I could see getting ghost on both ends, right? Like someone being a douchebag and then someone being so intimidated, they're just like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so to your point, I didn't even think about that. Like this whole time, I didn't think about like, who is she picking?
Yes.
But Hannah, speak to this real quick.
Yeah.
Is it true that like kind of who we are is the type of people we gravitate to, and if we want to date other kinds of people, we have to kind of change who we are? Is that correct?
Yes.
New kind. I mean, if you want to date a different type of person than the same old asshole you're dating, you probably need to.
That you date.
Yeah. I didn't mean like, I didn't mean you couldn't find anybody. You have to change to find somebody. That's not what I was saying.
No. I thought you meant that you're gravitated towards the people who are similar to you, and I'm like, not always. You
No. Yeah.
Towards a specific type of person, and yes, you have to do inner work to change who you are attracted to, and I can tell you that work is wild. Yeah.
Okay, so can you quickly speak to, like, I'm sure you have clients that like, they're like, I keep dating the same kind of guys. Why do I keep dating the same kind of guys? And probably in your mind, you're kind of like, because you're the same person, right? Like you're attracted to these, there's a match, right?
Yeah.
And if you want a different match, you have to change things about yourself to get a different match, to get a better match.
Yeah.
So how do you coach clients to do that? How do you coach clients to find better matches and improving themselves? Like, how do you get them to grasp that concept? Because when they come to you and they go, I date all losers, and you're kind of like, well, this is going to be tough because it's kind of you. Like, how do you break that ice and make it happen?
Well, I mean, damn, there's so many things. I mean, the simplest thing is like, find out what is the story, what is the trauma, what is the way that you were raised that makes this type of person attractive. And everyone, it's so cliche, it's so Freudian. It is to me, it's the thing that Freud got like the most correct, which is that who we are attracted to is largely informed by our family of origin. It just is, which is crazy. That's our default. And then we have to, if we want to change our family of origin dynamic or the patterns that we're living out through our romantic relationships, we have to do healing. So if someone is finding themselves in, say, repeated relationships with narcissists, we got to figure out what their family was like. What was their family of origin like? What role did they play in their family? Who did they have to be in order to earn their parents' love? What were their parents like? And we are wired to seek out romantic relationships that feel familiar. In fact, oftentimes what I feel like romantic attraction is that feeling of like, oh, something about this just feels right. And right could be this is a great person and I love them, or right could be this feels exactly like my alcoholic narcissistic dad.
Yeah.
And of course you don't know that. Like that's not conscious. It's all unconscious. That's why to me, I mean, it kind of makes attraction kind of creepy in a way. It's like, what is this? Why do I feel this like intense, like erotic pull towards this thing that is kind of rooted in my like parents? Like I hate that for us. I really do. But that tends to be it. And if it's not your parents, it's usually some kind of like really, really profound early life experience that's going to dictate the kind of person that you're attracted to. So you really got to go back, find out what that wound is. Why does this person seem like the person that you have to chase, or that maybe this is the only kind of person you're worthy of, or this is the only person that's really safe or going to choose you. Or like a really common theme with narcissists is like, I need to be needed, and a narcissist really feeds off of someone who is very giving and accommodating and empathic and doesn't have good boundaries. So it's like, oh, I just need to be needed because if I'm not needed, I'm not wanted. And right, so there's endless scenarios of the core wound or story that dictates who you're attracted to.
Okay, so can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really going to ask this because I felt, I'll be honest, I felt like I might step on your toes a little bit. But you know, you walked right into this, so I feel like I can ask.
Yeah.
She mentioned in that podcast that both her parents were feminists.
Ah, okay.
And when she said that, unfortunately, my mind went to the intensity of feminism,
Yeah.
right? And I was wondering, is that where that intensity comes from? And is it just misplaced, like the way I'm feeling it, right? Was there a level, like, because, you know, when you're fighting for something like, when you're fighting for things, there's a level of intensity. And
Yes.
both her parents being passionate about a cause like that has an impact on her as a young child and into adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe she's not looking for someone that's a feminist, but she's looking for someone that has that passion and that desire and that drive. And a lot of people just don't have that. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't have a cause that they're just like, you know, fired up about, or their parents aren't some people that had a cause that were fired up about. So I wonder if the strong female environment she grew up in made her very, very strong. But that doesn't necessarily translate to, unfortunately, real life of where we are in the United States right now. Like, you know what I mean? Or
I
am I
totally get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's just hard because I think that all different types of people are in relationships and can find them, right? Like I know a lot of women who are super intense, type A, marathon running, business running badasses who are partnered. So I think
what are their partners? What are their partners like?
They tend to, I think in most couples that I know of, there tends to have to be some sort of balance. So their partners maybe are like do embody some of like the softer qualities, even if they're just like quieter people. Like they might still be really successful and they still like to run but they're just like a little bit more laid back. They're like the yin to the yang. Like I do feel like almost every couple has to have like that balance. In fact, I'm actually thinking of like a specific instance, which is my sister, who's very badass energy. Like she is like this woman, and she has like, she's got her 10-year plan. She is like, she's a boss, right? And that she's also like softened over the years, whatever. But that is her personality, and she has dated people. It's not like she could never find someone. And she dated someone who, actually a few men who were like also like big personalities, you know, like larger than life characters, not in the same like way or the same brand, but just like big personalities. And it's like there wasn't really enough room for both of them. And her husband now is like much more of a balance. He's a badass in his own way, but like their person, you can see when they're together, it's not like ha, it's like ha, and like ha. Like there's just like there's a little bit more like flow or give and take. Like they balance each other more. So I do think in like most relationships there is like there's a dynamic.
Okay, so your sister probably respects the shit out of her husband, right?
Yes.
Even though he's soft and different than her, she has this high level of respect, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you're an intense person, sometimes it's hard to respect others that come at things a different way than you do. You know what I mean? So say you're an intense male, and you want to date like a female that wants to go like running and like doing shit and like blah 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 whatever. But then once you get there, like you said, there might not be enough space. But then how do you find someone that's softer than you and still respect them in the same way you would expect this person that does this intense shit? You know what I mean? Like that's everything you are. How do you respect the things that you're not?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that maybe in not necessarily in your sister's case, she solved it, right? You know what I mean? But in this girl's case, she's either A, looking for really intense guys that don't balance her like that, or B, the guys are so soft that she doesn't respect them. And so it's hard. I mean, I would like to ask your sister, was it hard to find her husband? You know what I mean? In the sense of like, to find someone that balances her like that and going through a lot of dudes that were intense or guys that were too soft, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think we would all say finding the right person's hard.
Yeah, sure.
I do want to make a distinction because I think there's definitely so much truth to what we're saying about like balancing each other out in terms of personality types. But there is this other aspect of relationships that like to me is just so fundamental and we can't ignore and is separate to personality in a way. It's related, but it's different, which is attachment style. So, and ways of relating in relationships. In fact, I think attachment style kind of overrides personality in a lot of ways because
Can you explain more about that?
Yeah. Okay, so the attachment styles, right? There are 3 basic ones. There's also arguably 4 or more. But it's the way that we show up in romantic relationships, informed by how we grew up and the kind of love that we received growing up. And in general, there's securely attached, meaning you don't have a whole lot of angst or anxiety around romantic relationships. You feel comfortable committing. You feel okay about the idea of breaking up. Like you basically kind of like maintain your center. Lucky you. Okay. And then there's like, lucky you. And we're all trying to get there. Like if we're on a healing journey, we're always trying to like get more to that place. And, you know, usually it's like because you had a pretty good balanced family dynamic and you felt like you were simultaneously loved, but also given space to do your own thing, right? There's a good balance. You can be anxiously attached, which is you are very, very afraid of being left. You feel like the words that come to mind are like needy or clingy, or like the negative words that come associated with it. But you're someone who needs a lot of reassurance. You're constantly fearing, like you're in fear that your partner is going to leave. And that tends to come from a family dynamic in which you received love and attention, but it was unreliable. It wasn't consistent. So you know what love feels like. You like love. Like love feels good, but it feels scarce. So you have to like jump on it, right? And if you get a feeling that maybe your partner's distancing themselves, you try to close the gap. That's as your default. And then you could be avoidantly attached, which is that closeness feels overwhelming. And you tend to, your default mode is to seek more distance from your partner and become overwhelmed by them, especially if you are with an anxious person, because anxious people and avoidant people like overwhelmingly date each other, are drawn together, which is like this amazing, amazing, what do we call it? Like cruel, wonderful
Dichotomy.
dichotomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like you could see it as like a cruel joke, or like what a beautiful healing opportunity, but it is what it is, right? That these people totally attract and then make each other. It's a struggle unless you really work on the relationship. And avoidantly attached people, it's typically described as someone who received almost no love and affection in a way that they needed. And so they got the message very early on that they don't need anyone, they're better off alone, and they are inherently kind of mistrustful of love and closeness because it's always let them down. And no one's really got them anyway. So they're almost like we all want love. They want love too, but it feels like there's almost like an aversion to closeness because it's like, oh, fuck that. You fucked me over. No. Another way so it's typically described as someone who's like actually pretty severely neglected. I've also found that people who are avoidantly attached can also come from families that had very poor boundaries and were like overbearing and like too present, smothering. Like if you have a parent who, say, has some kind of like has their own attachment shit, right? And they really like cling to their kids as their source of like love and validation. Then the kid, gets this message that like their parent is like using them for love, and it makes them also mistrustful of love and affection because it's like, no, this has an agenda. This isn't really for me. This isn't really considerate of me. So those people can also end up avoidant. And then you can also get someone who's anxious and avoidant called, oh man, I don't know, some kind of other attachment, but it's both. You kind of flip-flop. So that was a really long rant.
No,
And
you're good.
I'm sure you know a lot of that, Scottie, but it's
No,
always
no. No, I always like, I mean, you're my expert, Hannah, so I always like to have a refresher on like, what these things are and like, so like, how do you, what are the most common things you see how that impacts your clients?
Oh man. Well, in the case of couples therapy, far and away overwhelmingly, all of the couples that I see are usually an anxious and avoidant parent. Once in a frickin' while, I get like a secure and an anxious, like one's secure, one's anxious, and it's more about like, the secure person's more there to like support their partner and learn how to better support them through, their depression or anxiety. It's less common, yeah, than one is avoidant and one is anxious. So that's just typically what causes the most conflict in relationships. And then, I mean, how else would we describe that? I mean, it's that play in just a lot of our relationships to varying degrees. Like you can have, like Scottie, you and I have talked about this. It's like, I feel like in most relationships, someone's a runner and someone's a chaser. Maybe not, right? I don't see a lot of like, I don't know if perfect couples exist. I don't really think they do. I don't see a lot of them. So I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Including like my circle of friends. I feel like most people's relationships like have a push-pull, have a dynamic, and have some tricky patterns. Like I think that's most of us, but maybe I'm biased. But I totally lost my train of thought. What was your last thing?
I just said, how do you see that? How does that show up in your clients, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So it plays out in that you get stuck in a pattern where at its baseline, and it's obviously more nuanced than that, but the two partners are stuck in a pattern. Let's do the simplest version. One partner is chasing, like, come on. And it can show up as like, please love me, don't leave. Or it could be like, we have to figure this out. We have to talk. We have to do this. It could be like, actually, it could be like that woman, like a driver. She's probably anxious. Like, I need these things. This is what I want. Blah, 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 blah. Like very kind of intense. And then to that intensity, the other partner goes like, ah. And then in reaction to the other person taking a step back, the other partner goes forward to chase them, close the gap. Then the more they chase, the more the other one runs. Run, chase, run, chase. And then they're trapped in this like vicious cycle of disconnection. And both of them are feeling terrible. And that is what usually people come to in couples therapy. And then that's what we're trying to change. Oh yeah, I was also talking about varying degrees. So you can have just like kind of like normal, like there's like, it's a spectrum. And I'm biased. I think a lot of anxious avoidant relationships can work if you are willing to work on them. There are some that are so far on the extremes. One or both partners is so far on the extremes of the anxious and avoidant that it's like toxic, or like it's just too unhealthy and it doesn't work. So yeah, it's workable.
all right. So I'm going to hit you with one last question before we get out of here.
Yes.
So when we started this episode, I gave you my gut as a male on this whole situation. And you have given your more expertise of like relationships and things. So I'm just kind of curious, what are your thoughts on my gut reaction as a man in this particular scenario, since you're a woman? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't, right? I totally appreciate what you're saying about gender, and I think it is real and relevant. And I'm going to say your gut feeling, from my perspective, tracks. Like, I think it makes sense, and it tracks more with less with like, oh, she's too intense because she hikes and is a type A person, and more to do with like, what is the energy with which she's approaching relationships specifically? Because you can be a badass, intense type A woman who shows up to a relationship and is like, that. I was going to say like the opposite. So like she could be showing up to you can be super badass, intense. You got the fire, right? But you show up to a relationship with like this basic level of like, I'm grounded, I'm regulated. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Or you can show up, I don't care what your personality is. Maybe you're like, you play video games all day and eat popcorn in your basement, but you show up to a date and you're like, hi.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do? What's up with you? Right.
You haven't seen another human being in 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Like this is the first human contact you've had in 4 weeks. So you're like, hey, like a dog, like what? I need attention.
Right. And it's all about like how you are feeling about your energy, your anxiety, your confidence around dating itself. And that's like the vibe or the gut feeling that you just can't deny. You can just smell it on someone when they are not coming to the relationship, desperate or
unprepared. You're coming unprepared. You have not got all your shit in order. Like, cause like she had all the shit in order, like hiking, fishing, blah, 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 blah. But to your point, you're like, well, what kind of guy is she dating? What was her growing up like? Like that's it's 1 hour of an episode. You got to unwind all this stuff, but there's just too much to unwind. But on the surface, just my first, that first impression I got, like, was intense. You know what I mean? So like, it's going to, like you said, it sets up the scenario in a certain way. And people might not feel the way, they might feel different than I do, but feel that intensity. You know what I mean? They might be like, oh, she's a fucking bitch. You know what I mean? Like, but not notice that it's just intensity, because like, I'm not saying she's a bitch or a bad person. I'm just saying she's intense. You know what I mean? And someone might, and not knowing themselves and not knowing about other people and how to describe those things, might use just simple one phrase words to go, oh, dismiss, and not realizing that's an energy, not a person, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Do you have to go?
Yeah, I'm good. Let's do what
Can
do
we talk
you
a little
got?
more?
Yeah.
And we can like cut all this out. But this is also too where, especially this is where I really empathize with people who are dating as a, I hate to say as a hobby, but like dating to date, which I've done. I've done actually like a fair amount of that. And I have a lot of empathy for the weird energy that can show up there, because it is kind of an unnatural, pressured environment in which it's almost like you have to be able to like perform well. Like, I think dating is a skill. So you can be like a cool person who's like securely attached and like, or whatever. I mean, you could just be like a great person who has done the work, but showing up to like date after date with people you don't know and have never met before and have only seen on an app is like inherently weird and makes some people incredibly nervous and just feels unnatural, versus like, the good old fashioned way of like, oh yeah, you met someone and you clicked and you had a low stakes conversation, and then all of a sudden you're talking, or maybe this person through a friend, and so it's like there are just so many ways that are more natural to date and meet someone than like the dating app thing. So this is going to sound like an annoying flex. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm really good at like dates. Like, I'm really good at going on first dates because they don't make me nervous. So like, I usually walk away from a date with that person, like bare minimum, like not being turned off. Maybe they like weren't like super interested, but I don't think I like put people off. Maybe I did. I shouldn't like flex this hard. But just because, by nature of like being a therapist, like my whole thing is like listening to people, making sure that when I talk to people, I'm really paying attention, and I obviously don't nail it all the time, but like being grounded in my body, like giving lots of space, like being positive, being encouraging, acting curious, like, and that's a skill. Like,
Well,
that's not,
to your point, that's a skill that I use when I meet anyone.
Of course.
Right. And so like I meet someone at a fair or a convention or something like that. I'm like, hello. Yeah, those are the same approaches I have. So I don't have any problem meeting people, because I show up curious. I show up as a good listener. I try to be engaged and be present and like talk to them like a real person and get to know them and stuff like that. So there's never any fear from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think, I think you should be, Hannah, you should be good on a first date. You know what I mean? Like, cause you got all those, you do have those skills. You have those skills.
Right.
And I think
my job is to meet strangers and form close relationships.
Yeah. You get introduced to strangers all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like,
easy. Yeah.
but to your point, you can't practice that on a dating app. You can't practice listening and being present and all these things you do on a date on a dating app. And so like if you're always doing dating apps and you just go on dates and there's never really any practice around the actual date part, it's just getting the dates, there's a lot of just kind of like spinning your wheels.
Totally. And for people, I mean, I don't know about this for men. I definitely know about it for women. Like, I know so many women have dating anxiety, like just first date anxiety, like stage fright, like really bad anxiety before going on a first date. And I will say, like, the advice to those people is like, go on a bunch of dates, and none of them have to be good. None of them have to go anywhere. Just do it so that you're it's like if you have stage fright, it's like, well, then you got to get on stage and like practice. But yeah, that is the one call out that I want to be like, if you're someone who's solely meeting people on dating apps, I just want to validate that that's like really hard. That's not like an ideal setup to meet someone and have it feel comfortable and genuine, like, because you kind of are like on, it's like a business interview. I don't know, like you're performing.
Well, let me like I'll finish this out with this and confirm your thought. I've never thought about this until you said it, but a dating app is kind of like buying something in a catalog or like
Yeah.
online, right? Like you
Yeah.
go, here's the item,
Yeah.
and then what are the specs? What are the
Yeah.
specs? Okay,
Yes.
does it have four wheels? Does it, you know?
Yes.
And you're reading the specs, like does he
Yes.
like to work out? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So then you get the thing, like say you buy something online and it shows up, and it's that old joke of like, you know, like what it showed online and what it is. You know what I mean?
Now
Like,
you order.
yeah, like you order from like Temu or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
it shows up as like one thing, it's another. But like when your expectation is that like to your point that you purchased something, you kind of bought something, that this is a transaction and not you're meeting someone, then you show up and when in your spec, you look at the spec list, you're like, work out.
Yeah.
What? Like I'm not getting everything I was told I was gonna get. Now you feel deceived, you feel like you've lied, you know, and now, you know, it's the same thing. You get on Amazon, you write a bad review. You know what I mean? Like it's the same like concept. So to your point, like you can't kind of shop for people online like that. You have to kind of get out and meet people too, at least. Like if you're gonna do a dating app, you got to do the other two. You can't just do just a dating app. You have to go into a store and shop. You can't just like buy everything online. You know what I mean? Like it's wonderful, but like, hey, what happens when you go into a store? It's the interactions of other people. It's the paying for your shit. It's the shit that you didn't. You're like, oh my God, I didn't know there were space Oreos.
Yeah.
I only saw regular Oreos online. You know what I mean? I didn't know that a good looking guy or girl comes to the grocery store.
Yes.
You know, they live in my neighborhood. You know,
Yeah.
like, and so I think that, you know, I don't know how that lady got her dates or what she did. I think she said was using dating apps. So there's probably a level of that kind of miss, and it totally speaks to what you're saying, is that like you can't, it's it's a nice tool,
Yes.
but it can't
It
be the
can
end
work.
all. Yeah, and it helps and it works, but it can't be the end all be all
Right.
of date. Like you go, I got the dating app, so now I'm gonna find a partner. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. That's like saying,
Ooh, that's another really good point. It's like
what's
if you're
that?
going that if you're I love being intentional about dating, right? Like I'm a big believer. That was like something, in fact, that was part of my healing journey is like, Hannah, stop like dating hot guys who do film. Like, you know, like maybe be a little bit more intentional about like who you're dating. Like, what do you actually want in a long-term partner? Like, you know, maybe like nothing wrong with guys in a band, but like maybe guys in a band is like not actually what like is going to be a healthy relationship. So I'm all about kind of, I don't, you know, like I'm not against having your criteria.
No.
But if you go, I would say make your criteria like values based instead of like doctor. I mean, like whatever.
Well, it's a little bit like voting, right? There are many issues when you vote for one side or the other. There are many issues you're voting for, and all those issues you might be concerned with some of them. You might be only concerned with one of them or all of them, right? But like you're not everything is going to be in a vacuum of like you make this vote or you pick this person and then everything's going to be great.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there are concessions to all of this, you know?
Yes. But so like I definitely recommend if you're dating to like, you know, date intentionally. Also, if you're 21 and just want to date, like have fun. That's a fun time. But like if you are like really wanting to find someone who has staying power, like I'm into the criteria. But to Scottie's point, I don't recommend approaching it as if like I'm gonna find them, because that is being attached to the outcome in a way that can set you up for disappointment, but also like that's an energy. Versus many people have talked about this. Also, the Buddhists have been talking about this for thousands of years, but non-attachment is one of the, which doesn't mean not caring, but like not like staking everything on something happening. It's like, I want this, but I'm like relaxed and I'm open to what's actually going to happen, is one of the most healthy and grounded states of being. It's also very attractive. Like if you meet someone who is like not attached, I don't mean that in terms of attachment, but it's kind of to the point of like, I think one of the most attractive things you can do is like, hey, I like you. And this is the energy. I like you. And if you don't like me, that's also fine. Like, I'm going to be fine. And that's just like a really good feeling to get from anyone. Could also be a friend. Like, hey, I like you, but like, I'm not going to like lose my shit if it doesn't work.
It's kind of like with my daughter. Like I'll tell her I love her, and she won't say I love you back.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't say, like, excuse me.
Yeah. But then sometimes she'll say I love you. Like she'll randomly say I love you, Daddy.
Oh.
And like I think in my head, well, I don't have to say it back, but usually I'm feeling it, so I usually do, right? But like that expectation that she doesn't have to say it back to me, you know what I mean? It means I'm not attached to this idea of that she needs to love me.
Yeah.
I'm just allowing her to love me how she does. And if I do that, she loves me more. If I tell her how to love me, yeah. If I tell her how to love me, she's not gonna like. If I tell her what to do, she's not gonna. Nobody likes to be told what to do. But if I allow her to love me, if I give her space and room to love me, then she'll love me genuinely. And then when she feels she loves me, she'll tell me. You know what I mean? But it's so hard. That's a hard thing for people to let go of,
It is hard. It is hard. But yeah, like that's kind of like when we're talking about the good energy of like how you should approach dating, I think that's pretty high up there as like a quality to have. And not fake not caring, for the love of God. Like I would so much rather someone be like unabashedly like desperate and into me than like pretending they're not into me when they are. That's so stupid. Like, don't do that. But and I understand it's so hard, especially when you like someone, to have non-attachment.
Sure.
Right? To have that like, oh, I really like this person, but like I'm also gonna like keep my balance. I'm gonna keep my internal peace going. But that's key.
Well, there was that old ketchup commercial. The best things come to those who wait, right? As cliche as that is, when you give the space and grace in the area for things to come, they'll come to you. When you try to force them, a lot of times they don't. And to the point of like this girl, there might have been a lot of forcing. She might have been like really wanting these relationships and just putting it really heavy down on it. So.
And I've been this girl before, actually. I also wanted to say that.
I've been that guy. I've been the guy. Totally.
Yeah. And like usually I'll get there like later in the relationship, but I've also been that like early into dating when I was younger, especially. Like I was just like, do you like me?
Yeah.
Like I like you, and so I like empathize with that. It's hard. Like it's really fucking hard.
Really fucking hard. Well, another episode down. If you have something that's mixtape therapy for you, make sure you let me and Hannah know, because we would love to use it on a future show. Hannah, so good seeing you again.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.